All right, got it. Share screen. Okay, can you guys see that?
It's
Yep,
coming.
Yes,
there it
we
is.
can. Okay.
Hey,
It works.
There you
Nice.
go.
Well,
There you go.
Welcome, everybody. Since we can see Anne's presentation, why don't we jump right in? Because I know Anne has to move on very quickly to another work obligation. So Anne, I'm going to turn it over to you and Christopher.
thanks so much, everyone. Good afternoon. I really am sorry that you can't see me, but I can see all your smiling faces. So great to see so many of you, and hello to all the folks that I haven't met yet. Thanks for letting us be here. Both Christopher and I are so excited that we are rolling out finally our Arts Access collaboration. Our official launch was on Monday, but this project has really been going on behind the scenes for over a year now. And it kind of got its start quite a while back. Both organizations, KERA and the Dallas Morning News, were looking at philanthropic support for arts coverage, new ways to make arts coverage more sustainable. And as time went on, we both realized that we were talking to a lot of the same people and covering a lot of the same ground, and that we would be stronger if we worked together. And so about a year and a half ago, Christopher and I and our teams from both sides really launched an experiment to see how we would work together. And we collaborated on, around 25 stories. Is that right, Christopher?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that were all around the topic of the pandemic and how audiences and arts groups were faring, responding, surviving, thriving, or not. And that series, in addition to really providing a lot of content that I think neither organization might have done on its own, it also gave us a real look under the hood at kind of the mechanics of the day-to-day, what a collaboration would look like between the two organizations. And so let's see, I kind of lost my place. And so we came together and decided that we did want to move forward with this idea. And we conceived a team that will live between both KERA and the Dallas Morning News. The Arts Access team will focus on arts, music, and culture, but really looking at it through the lens of access and equity. And Christopher, you want to hop in here? I feel like you could.
That's exactly right. I mean, no surprise. I think the moment we are all in as for you guys as arts creators, presenters, leaders, for us as journalists covering the arts, as we are in a moment of transformation. The audience is changing, the scene is changing. We need to change too. And so what we're really focused on is how do we cover how the scene is changing? How do we do better at representing audiences, artists, creators, patrons who have historically not felt seen or represented in our coverage? And how do we do it in ways that are compelling and engaging to especially a younger and a more diverse audience, and the way that audience communicates and likes to communicate and where they spend time. So I think we're all kind of aligned, and we're trying to stay relevant and build and grow, our arts community by continuing to stay connected to the patrons, to the artists, to the folks making it, consuming it, and so forth, and do it in new ways. And so we really thought, the fun part for us and for Ann and I is like, what if we supported a team that had the support and the resources and tools of the two big legacy media organizations who've covered the arts in this community, and gave them all the power and the support that we have, but then also the freedom to try things and experiment and tell stories in different ways. And that's what we're really most excited to do with this group. And we just launched this week. I mean, there's still so much work to do, but we're just excited about the possibilities and where it's going.
Yeah, and I should pick up and say that we are actually hiring for this team. We have hired one reporter, Elizabeth Mayong, who has hit the ground running. She was a producer and reporter for KERA already, but has a deep interest in the arts and background in the arts, and has already started working. We are about to hire a coordinating editor who will oversee this team. And we have one more reporter to hire. So that's a significant increase in just resources for both Christopher and I, and we are just thrilled about that. And I'm sure you're wondering here, we're talking in all these lofty terms, but what does this really mean in terms of storytelling? We're still at the beginning of figuring all of that out, but I think if you just look at the content this week, you can get an idea of what the range is going to be. So we started with our launch story and an interview that Christopher and I and Elizabeth did on Monday. And then really kicked off with a collaboration. I think there are 4 bylines on this story from both organizations, taking a deep dive into really where are arts groups right now, especially the performing arts groups, and really taking a deep dive into what they are doing and where their struggle, their pain points are as they are rebuilding. What I liked about this article is that it wasn't just anecdotal. Our reporters were able to really get some hard numbers in here about the damage that COVID has done to many organizations, and also some positive stories about how arts groups who have, changed it up a little bit have found some surprises and silver linings around the way from COVID. And then, that's pretty serious, but here we also went out to really connect with Blackpink fans. If you're not aware of Blackpink, they are one of the biggest acts going right now. They are a K-pop girl group, and they kicked off their world tour last night and tonight in Dallas. And so we went to talk to fans, and really, I mean, one of the things, as Christopher was saying, we're really trying to make sure that younger people are seeing themselves in our coverage, and seeing us being interested in what they're interested in. So that was kind of a fun story. And then we had our first breaking news story as a collaborative team yesterday, the story about Afton Battle resigning from the Fort Worth Opera. And that is a story I think you'll see more coverage from us on. And then here, finally, this is a little bit of a, as Christopher was saying, we're experimenting with story forms. And this is a little bit of an example of that. This information in this story is a small chunk of information that was included in that bigger story earlier this week on COVID's impact on arts organizations. And the idea here is that we may have missed some folks who didn't want to settle in with a very long story that's going to take 10 minutes to read. Here's a way that they can access that story quickly with just, here, I'll show you three vignettes from Cry Havoc, from Amphibian Stage in Fort Worth, and from the Bishop Arts Theater Center about their experiences so far in COVID. So that's pretty good for, 2.5 days in.
Yeah, and no sleep. Exactly.
Yeah. And Christopher, is there anything else you want to say before we maybe open it up to any questions that folks may have?
I'm curious to hear your questions and how we can give you guys more information. But yeah, this is a great example of a way that we used to tell stories, an example of how we're trying to do it differently and do it better. The old, especially in the newspaper biz, we would have been like, hey, we dropped that 1,000 word feature a week ago. Why didn't you read it? Didn't you read it? And it's acknowledging that people are busy. People skim articles, they look at things. You might not be interested in the big giant thing we did, but maybe we pulled out a detail and made it a standalone that I am interested in small groups, or I want to read the by the numbers breakdown. So again, looking at how do we tell stories in ways that serve the audience and that are relevant and interesting to our audience here, because we know it's critical to build a strong community. So what questions do you guys have for us, and how can we help and be good partners?
As
Yeah.
a visual artist, I'm kind of curious how you're going to be covering some of that, because I know some incredible artists that are at like Craighead Green Gallery and Christopher Martin Gallery that actually have some in-depth, beautiful stories, but they really are like, it's underneath the current of all the news right now. Are you guys going to be reaching out to them and developing stories?
We are, for sure. I'm a big visual arts fan, and we tend to do a lot of visual arts coverage on my beat. And I love, Chris Martin and those guys at Craighead Green. What I'm interested in exploring more of is doing, especially visual arts coverage in a different way. Like how, can we do it? How can we do that with Instagram, with digital? How can we take advantage of the visual nature of that coverage to get it in front of more people and to explore it? I'm happy for people to lean back with my Sunday print section and enjoy a great visual art story, but what are some other ways that we can bring people in? What I also kind of love about visual arts is it's so much of the art we have and show addresses the topics of the day. There are themes that deal with shows that deal with themes of race and gender and things that are very much at the forefront of the conversation right now. And so it's a great way to come at those issues also.
Do we have other questions for Christopher or Anne? And you can use the raise your hand function or just
Elizabeth
wave your
used the
hand.
old-fashioned wave her hand.
Yes, I saw Elizabeth's hand.
I was just curious how we can help you find stories.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we are all about it. And you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Christopher. You can reach out to Liz directly, any of the editors at the Morning News. Even, we have a new arts reporter I should tell you about at KERA. Her name is Galilee Abdullah. And she too will be, it's not that Jerome Weeks and Galilee and Tim Giovanni and other reporters at the Morning News and KERA are going to stop doing stories, or that they will never do arts access stories. So you can continue to reach out to the same reporters that you do currently. But if you think you have something with an arts access bent, feel free to flag us. We would love to know.
Thank you.
Especially, we're always looking for interesting, surprising stories. We want the big announcements and everything officially going on as well too. But insights, questions, thoughts, like just pop us a note. And at least in my case, don't be shy to email me again if I don't respond quickly.
Oh, same here.
One of my challenges is just the avalanche of information coming in from so many places. I'm constantly working at getting better at how to manage everything going on and all the data. So if we don't reply soon, please ping us again, or one of our folks on staff. And
Yeah.
make sure we hear you.
Christopher, you raise a really good point. That is another reason to not feel bad if you are sending me and Galilee and Liz and Christopher and Anne the same press release. That's fine, because you've just, quintupled the odds that you'll hit someone who was able to absorb it and bubble it up. So we do read all of our mail, but as Christopher said, it is an avalanche. So as I'm sure we're all experiencing, I know that that's a common problem.
Do we have other questions?
Yes, I had one. Hi, Ann. It's Damani.
Hey, I'm sorry, you can't see me, but good to see you.
You also can't see me. That's okay.
Yeah, I see your photo though.
So wanted to know, how is this? I know that we're capturing stories, but how is the fact? Let me try this again. How is the story of this being told? Basically, how are people finding out about it? what are the avenues outside of hopefully just the standard kind of KERA Art and Seek, like those standard avenues?
Right,
What are the
right.
avenues that we're using to tell people this exists?
Christopher, I'm gonna drop the KERA link there into the chat, and you can drop the DMN link.
Yeah.
I think your best bet for finding these stories is to go to the arts and culture section of KERAnews.org, at least on the KERA side. I should say a big shout out to the DMN because they are putting all of these stories in front of the paywall. So everyone should be able to access them. And to our larger point about telling stories differently, we're still ironing out some of our social media strategy and waiting to assemble our team to really have that out in full force. But I think as time goes on, you'll be able to find these stories or versions of them on whatever your favorite social media channel is.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Well
Nancy,
said.
did you have a question? We can't hear you.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Question, just there are so many small arts groups all over town, and I'm wondering if there will be sort of a section, like whatever, if there will be reporting specifically, say, for small community groups who really don't get as much coverage as, or any coverage at this point.
I'm gonna take this one, and then I'm afraid I'm gonna have to hop off. I hope Christopher may be able to stay for a few more minutes. First of all, I'd point out that this breakout story that I was sharing previously was specifically about smaller performing arts groups, and we didn't highlight 50 of them, but the 3 we did highlight, I think, have a lot, there are many of the other groups that are experiencing similar issues and learning similar things. Secondly, at KERA, we've always been committed to telling the stories of smaller arts organizations. I do think, though, we are shifting to really be asking ourselves tough questions about what about this organization, whether it's large or it's small, is the story that we're going to be able to engage with our audience around. So we are not telling stories just to tell a story about a small arts organization. We are not telling stories just because it's a really huge institution and people should tell all the stories about that institution. We are really disciplining ourselves, especially with this group, to be like, what are the stories and how can we tell them in a way that is going to engage those newer audiences that I know arts groups are interested in, and we in media are certainly interested in as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much, y'all. I'm so sorry to have to jump off, and we'll be happy to come back anytime to fill you in and get a progress report and get some feedback from you once we're up and running and have a little more of a track record.
Well, thank you, Anne. We really appreciate it. This is a really exciting, wonderful program. And Christopher, do you have any parting words for us?
Yeah, I really just want to build on what Anne said, 'cause it's such a key point. We will be doing more arts. Great. But I want to be clear, the focus is to do smarter, more strategic arts coverage. The point of this is to build audience, to build readership, which is what ultimately serves all of us who care about arts, music, and culture in North Texas in these groups. It's less about how can we blanket bomb lots of coverage of everything. It's how do we really choose well, interesting and compelling stories from small groups to big groups that are engaging, that get people engaged in conversations and in arts, music, culture in the community. And that's where we really will be looking to you guys also for ideas, for questions, for feedback, for pushback. How do we make it stronger and better? Because the goal is to really build something for the future, so that we continue to have a healthy scene and continue to be relevant and engaging with this new and changing audience in the world that we live in. So I appreciate y'all's feedback and help along the way.
Well, thank you. And thank you for doing this. You know, we all know the arts are important, but it has been a struggle to get, you know, to get back out to the audiences as we are all coming out of the pandemic. So thank you so much.
Yeah, agreed. You know, send me questions anytime, you guys, and I'll be happy to respond and talk more. And so many, I should say, so much of what we have been able to build is because of the dedication that you all have had as arts leaders who have raised your hand and said, hey, we have a healthy, thriving scene here. Arts journalism is part of making that ecosystem work. How can we pull this off? I think it was Chris Heimbaugh who famously said to me one time, I loved it, we've got lots of creative people here. How do we make this work? So thank you for you guys and your commitment, and ping me anytime.
Quick question I just thought about. Quick question I just thought about.
Yeah.
Will the articles just be, and when I say just, I don't mean that as a pejorative, will
Sure.
they just be like showcase based, or will there be a art critic element to it at all? Because that's one of the things that I've heard actually recently from folks in the arts community, is that we don't have a strong arts critic scene, even in the telling of the stories of what's happening.
It's true. That's something that we are grappling with and looking at, and that's been kind of an ongoing issue. The challenge we have is that arts patrons and arts presenters love arts criticism. So far, arts readers have not particularly been drawn to that. You know, I was just talking with an arts editor in San Antonio who said, we do theater reviews that struggle to get more numbers than the number of cast and crew in the show. And so part of what I'm just personally very interested in trying to figure out is, how do you bring a critical voice and do criticism? Because that's so much of how you evaluate what is working or not working in our scene. How do we stand up nationally? What is the quality and the ambition of our work locally is through good criticism. But how do you do it in a way that's not what we have historically done, which is, here's an 800-word critique, often from a white male critic, you know, who either blesses it or says this is terrible. So I'm open to figuring out what that is and what are variations of that. And if, you know, again, as you guys have ideas and thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And that's something we're actively looking at, including, is part of the equation that we look at, you know, I have a architecture critic who is funded. We used to have a fine art critic who was partially funded through a university partnership. You know, do we revisit something like that for theater, for books, for something else? I'm open to all of the ideas, but
well, I would love to try to find something, because obviously you guys do run classical reviews, and so
and funded
there's
very
an appetite for reviews. So I think we just need to figure out where can we, if it's figuring out a funding puzzle or something like that, to where we can at least get some level of, you know, criticism back in there, especially for shows that are running longer, where it really, that makes a difference on the box office. You know, having a show on a Wednesday and the review coming out Thursday, and it's a one-night show, doesn't really do much for anybody. But for a lot of groups, you know, those reviews, I know you're not a paper of record anymore, but those reviews matter, and they do make a difference. Absolutely.
Any other thoughts too from you guys? Is that something you all feel pretty strongly about? Is that in terms of reviews, the criticism element?
I think it's important. I think, you know, I think that's a good assignment for all of us, is to think about how to help you all look at reviews maybe in a new way that does make them more accessible to the reader. Because I think one of my problems with some of the reviews is they get so arcane and into the weeds, and it, you know, they get so above it all that it's not relatable to the average consumer of music or theater or dance. And so you want some of that for the people that really, you know, want to get that far out into the weeds. But, you know, if you read a long review and it's just going on and on and on about some element that is, you know, really out into the stratosphere in terms of the expertise of the musician or the actor or something, it doesn't make any sense to those of us that are just consumers. I think that finding that balance is hard. But that's a good assignment for all of you, is to think of ways to make reviews more accessible.
I think,
Diana, did you have a comment?
yeah, just something to think about with this is that for especially smaller, newer arts organizations like myself, we don't have anything to share with the community about our work from a third party. So having, a quote on our website that we can say somebody came to our performance, especially when the review is good, and said, this is what they thought about it. It helps us share with the community what impact we're having. Just a thought on how reviews can also have a really positive effect on how we can share with the community.
Yeah, I'll tell you too, one of the things, and I don't want to get too much into this, but we know that across the country, and this is a performing arts perspective, but audiences are down 25%. And it's not because of COVID. They're not afraid of COVID. They're just not coming out. The hits, the things they know people like, those things are actually doing really well. It's that space in between that is struggling. And frequently that is where especially your newer works, your newer organizations are. And I think people are hesitant to go out and spend an evening, invest in a babysitter, do all the things that they want to do and not be sure. And so that kind of affirmation from someone like the Dallas Morning News, really helps kind of put that over the edge and encourage people to come out and take a chance, go try a new group, go try a new art form, something different. So I think those things are actually even more critical right now because we're all sitting there trying to get these audiences back out and to take a chance and come see a show that's not necessarily a guaranteed hit, but where a lot of the creative work is actually being done. So I think we can try to figure out a way to somehow, do that and elevate this work.
It makes sense. I think the challenge is to do that in a way that audiences seem to be engaging with, because when we have done that previously, there was not a lot of engagement, highly valued, and it makes a difference. And I'm sympathetic even to, mini groups for fundraising and grants, that's helpful when you're writing a grant proposal and all of that. And that's kind of what this team is about, is having to figure that out. How do we do something that's engaging and that has a critical voice, that has a balance, and that's part of the journey we're about to go on. So this is really good feedback, and let's keep talking and keep working on it, because it's not just our community. I mean, I'm on the board of the Society for Features Journalists, and it's every paper in the country, outside the big nationals, is struggling with a version of this. And so I would love if we could figure out something that is working, and I hope can be a model in other communities to kind of move this forward.
Well, everybody send your ideas.
Yeah.
Real quick, you guys used to do and I say you guys, the Morning News, this is not arts related, but you used to have kind of neighborhood correspondence. I don't know if you remember that. And you'd have some people out in the Oak Cliff and some people, and these are people who you would kind of put at least through some hoops, making sure they've got writing skills, they understood the basics of journalism. Maybe there's something there that lends itself to a model like this. So I've just tossed that out. We can talk more about it. I know it's probably not the place, but that might be kind of a model for moving forward with something.
Sure, it's a good idea, and you're right. We've kind of dabbled in different versions of that. So thank you for the idea, and let's keep them coming, please, because now we have a group and the opportunity and the space to actually try some things and do some things, which I'm excited about. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for doing this new effort to put more focus on the arts. So we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Joanna. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Tatiana, thank you for your comment in the chat. We do have something called the Arts Pass through the libraries here, where groups can put their tickets for at the library, or actually through a pass at the library that they can sign up for, and then they would be free. It's up to the organizations to sign up for that. So in our next newsletter, I'll make sure to put that information in there to remind people that they can do that. So moving on, the next thing is our member spotlight. And today we have Kathy Hernandez with the Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra to tell us a little bit about GDYO. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kathy. Kathy,
Hi, everybody.
Sorry.
Well, I was teasing because I said I hope I can remember my name. I just got married over the summer. So I used to be Kathy Hernandez. I'm now Kathy Havicon. And if you guys can't remember, neither can I. You're doing well. Yeah, so GDYO, a couple things about GDYO. I've got a quick video to show you, but the video will put faces and looks to everything I'm going to tell you, but I'll give you a general overview. First and foremost, GDYO is celebrated 50 years just last season. We are on 3 different campuses. A lot of people think we're one orchestra. We are actually 10 different orchestras on 3 different campuses. One of which is Salmon Center for the Arts. Every year we have auditions. Every year we see about 1,000 kids come out and audition. We are maxed out at 3 different locations. We're trying to grow as quickly as we can to serve more kids. But right now it's capped at about 500. We just started our newest ensemble this year, which is a clarinet choir. We did that to try and accommodate all the clarinet players that are coming to us versus needing a huge venue location. This is done in a smaller classroom, so we're able to have a little bit more flexibility. So we're looking for ways to be flexible and bring on more kids into the GDYO fold. So that gives you a general overview about GDYO generally. We rehearse every Sunday. We rehearse, we have our annual auditions in the spring. If you know of any young kids that want to play on Sundays, please send them our way. All the audition information traditionally goes up on the GDYO website in January, and we'll hold our auditions starting in March. So we give everybody about a 2-month notice, head start, to try to get those applications into us. So yeah, so tell everybody you know. And for those kids that don't make it their first time around, that's fine, because we have a very hardworking community engagement program. Right now, we're going out to the Dallas ISD. We have a capacity building program within the Dallas ISD that serves both orchestras and bands. And what I mean by capacity is we started off with just 2 high schools. And we went in, and Dallas ISD assigned us to those 2 locations. The problems there were very different, but they said, could you please help? These 2 orchestras are in danger and you have resources. So we started there, and we just called it a capacity building program because these orchestras, some of them are, they come from a band or a woodwind background, and they're suddenly working with a string orchestra, whatever, it runs the gamut. And so we are at 25 schools now running this capacity building program. And the 25 schools are locations where the Dallas ISD has placed us. These are places that are, if they don't improve over time, these schools are in danger of getting their music programs cut. So we're in there to help to improve those music programs, especially during testing or UIL time, to make sure that they improve and those orchestra and band programs do not get cut. We're putting most of our resources. Right now, we're serving about 4,000 children in the Dallas ISD alone. We just met with the Irving ISD that wants us to expand to 15 different schools across the Irving ISD, serving about another 1,000 kids this year. So we are really working to engage these kids, which is why our audition numbers are coming up, which is why we're racing as quickly as possible to have more ensembles within the GDYO fold to accommodate all the kids that are coming to us from multiple school districts. So we are able to do this through our very generous Parents Guild. The GDYO parents are actually our #1 funder, and we love them. And it really speaks to the quality of the programming that our families and parents love it so much that they really want to spread the love of music over to kids that are not affecting their kids. Our outreach program is very much funded by our Parents Guild today. So that sort of gives you a rundown. You can always visit before I start our video, you can always visit our website, gdyo.org, to get more information around auditions, around our outreach program, our Parents Guild, our alums. We have a body of over 10,000 alums that we have year-round programming for to try to get them engaged. And a little known fact about DDYO, we also have a jazz program that's now in our 6th year. And just last year for our 50th anniversary, we celebrated with Salmon Center for the Arts. We went out to 4 different community locations and did free performances all across Dallas in celebration of our long-standing partnership, I believe since 1988, correct, Joanna?
That's all right.
Yeah, so long time at Salmon's and proud to be there. So our 50th anniversary was reflective of that, reflective of our jazz program, reflective of community outreach, and reflective of all those people who have helped us grow for the last 50 years. So without further ado, I will show you our 50th anniversary video, and it will tell you all the things that I probably forgot. So enjoy, and hopefully I don't have a technical glitch here.
Kathy, have you hit the screen share yet?
Oh, gosh. I did it, but my computer shut down and froze.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you'll have
That
to
was
hit screen share and then optimize for video before we can see it.
Sorry, guys. I thought I did that as other people were talking. Is this better? Is this better? Can you see it? Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right, let's try this again. Sorry, everybody. And hopefully that gives you a pretty good overview of JDYO. We are one of the largest youth orchestras in the country, and we are also one of the only youth orchestras in the country that have a jazz program. So, you know, we're very proud of the accomplishments that we've made over the last 50 years, and we realize that we're not done yet. Are there any questions? All right, well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And like I said, our audition season starts in January, and would love to see more kids because we're building more ensembles as quickly as we can.
Congratulations on your new name.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a change. I forget my name all the time.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks a lot. So, okay, next thing on the agenda, Brian Toney is with us, and I think we had a presentation at our last meeting about the Proposition A, which is the hot tax increase that would fund convention center upgrades and renovations to Fair Park buildings. And Brian Toney's been working on that. So I would like to ask Brian to give us an update on that, maybe a little broader explanation of what Prop A is. So Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Joanna. Good to be back. And for those who are in person at the Salmon Center, you got a little bit of a commercial from Chris Heinbaugh last time. I'd like to thank him and the AT&T Performing Arts Center for hosting us at their weekly patio sessions and a couple other events so we could help get the word out about Proposition A. Damani Daniel also had us at his 10-year Event Nerd birthday party. So thank you to everybody who's talked to their neighbors or shared our social media. You can find our website, voteyesforprop.a.com online. You may have also received one of our mailers in your mailbox. This is an 8x11 piece. We also did a 6x9 piece, and a couple more are coming between now and Election Day if they aren't already in your mailbox. So just again, some background on the vote. So far, we actually haven't experienced much organized opposition. This is a 2% tax increase on hotel occupancy taxes from 15 to 17% for the city of Dallas, which brings it in line with other peer cities' hotel occupancy taxes. That tax will expire once the bonds are paid off. And of course, the bonds are going to two major facilities. One, the rebuilding of our convention center downtown, which will create more space for artists, retail, and entertainment, as well as tourists who come in to experience our great city. And then the second is $300 million in renovations for 6 facilities within Fair Park. The Music Hall, which is the most visited North Texas art institution. The Band Shell can become a Hollywood Bowl. 2 exhibit halls, the Coliseum, and the Cotton Bowl, of course, which will be big for potentially the World Cup, if you want to knock on wood and are a big soccer fan. So we have our endorsement list online for both individuals and organizations. It's grown exponentially over the last couple of weeks. So feel free to add your name to it or your organization's name if you would like to sign on as a supporter of this initiative. We've been showing up to as many community events as possible to get the word out. We've also been doing our emails, yard signs, buttons, backpack distributions during the state fair. They're bright and yellow, so you really can't miss us. But other than that, things are looking good so far. It's 3 days into early voting. Numbers are a little bit less than where they were at in 2020 and 2018. So hopefully there's there's more momentum that continues to build despite the rain on Monday. And this will ultimately pass is our hope. So please continue to tell your board members and other supporters about it. I can include the PDF flyer and the follow-up email to everybody. There's been lots of coverage that Chris is linking to within different media outlets, and I'll leave the link for our website again as well, so y'all can quickly take a look at that and let us know if you have any questions or need to get in contact with the campaign. It's a pleasure to work on it and alongside a lot of great endorsing organizations, including DACAC and many of you on the call today.
Brian, it's great having a member of DACAC being involved in the campaign. And I don't know how many of you know that, but Brian's a longtime member and big supporter of the arts. Also, there is part of this does benefit the arts. We did a letter to the editor in the morning news that showed up today, and it talks specifically about how this impacts the arts. And we dropped the link in the chat there. If you want to take a look at it. Hopefully it's not blocked. Hopefully it doesn't have a paywall, but anyway, thanks, Brian.
Looks good. Thank you.
And just want to echo it. Everybody needs to get out and vote. Early voting started Monday. I think it goes through, is it November 4th, Brian, that it goes through?
Yes.
And then the actual election is November 8th. So get out there and vote if you haven't already, and get everyone you know to get out there and vote. So does anyone have any questions for Brian? If
Not a
not,
question, but a triple cosign. Please vote yes. Please. Please and thank you.
And thank you so much for working on Prop A. That's amazing project.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
okay, I think the last thing on our agenda is the Texans for the Arts update, and Anne Graham is on vacation. So she sent me just a little report that I'm going to read to give you the highlights on what's going on at the state level. So she left a message with the Governor's Office of Travel and Tourism to see what the outcome is from the $180 million distribution through their Office of Travel and Tourism from the Disaster Recovery Grant, or the ARPA funding. Has not had a return call or an answer yet. She was really interested to see who actually got funded through that. So I don't know how many of you may have applied for that. That was a grant program that opened very briefly at the end of the summer. And you could apply for up to $20,000. And so if anyone was applied and got funded, let me know so I can let her know, because she's real curious to start kind of collecting that data. And I hope that some Dallas groups were applied and got funded. She said, all eyes on the election, vote, encourage your members to vote. So we just did that. Monday, November 14th is the first day legislators and legislators-elect can file bills for the 88th legislative session that starts in January. And so that's something they keep an eye on, because there's always some crazy bills that get filed. And then Monday, November 14th, I'm sorry, Texans for the Arts and Texas Hotel Lodging Association are filing a bill regarding the hotel occupancy tax. This would be building on and expanding the data requirements from SB 1221 from the 86th session. It'll be an improvement that will help us hopefully get more comprehensive data around cities and counties that are levying the hot tax. There's a modest financial incentive that communities can take as a reward for filing their hot tax data. So that's something that they're working on. They're always keeping an eye on the hot tax guidelines, because there's always efforts from other agencies to try and tap into that. And we know that the funding only goes so far. So the 88th legislative session convenes at noon, Tuesday, January 10th, and has a 60-day deadline for bill filing. There is a Texas for the Arts Advocacy Summit on Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. That will be in Austin, followed by a happy hour from 5 to 7. And she thinks there will be a bus or two coming from Dallas. So she'll get information out for anyone that wants to attend that. And State Comptroller came out in July with budget estimates for the 88th Texas legislative session. It will likely be the largest budget surplus in the history of the state. However, there are constitutional spending limits that are set to limit the size of government growth. So as of now, all of the obligations and appropriations for the 2022-2023 fiscal year are estimated to be met, and there will be a $27 to $28 billion surplus. So she will keep an eye on that. Obviously, as she told us the last meeting, they have put in a request to increase funding for TCA. It's not a huge increase, but they haven't had an increase in many, many years for their basic appropriation. So that is all we have from the state level. This is our last general meeting of 2022, unless we would call a special meeting if something urgent came up. So our next one will be in January. They're the last Wednesday of the month. So we will let you know if that's going to be in person or virtual. And I'm working on trying to get a brown bag session going for next month, and we'll let you know details on that. Apart from that, I don't really have anything else to share. And if anyone else has something major, Chris, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, and this goes to something we talked about last time, but it is the arts and economic prosperity surveys. We are way, way, way behind on our numbers, especially for programs outside the arts district. Our district isn't doing too bad. We started using those cards we talked about, and that's actually really got our numbers up in the arts district. But we don't do that much outside the arts district, and we especially need more stuff at the Latino Cultural Center, at, it could be at the Majestic, South Dallas Cultural Center, any of them outside the district. And we've got to start doing more of those. And the BIPOC numbers are also way, way, way down. We've got to boost all those numbers, and it's just a matter of getting people to take the surveys. Those cards are really, really simple, and you can photocopy them. They photocopy on both sides, English and Spanish. If you can just get them out to people, two things we found work. If we hand them out, they don't pay attention, but when they hand them out and you tell them about it, like in a curtain speech or something, our numbers shoot up. And I've been actually looking with Americans for the Arts, and when we do that, the numbers actually shoot up. I did a curtain speech for, I think it was, I can't remember, Robert Cray or something, but people, they had the things in their hands, but when I told them about it, all of a sudden they're like, oh, and you could see them start, and this was in Strauss Square, so it was outside during the show, but they started pulling up and they started taking the surveys. So you need to kind of take the extra step frequently to tell them what it is. But I really, really, if you guys need them, we'll send the copies. I know they're there on the website, but I'll make it easy. I'll send them to you. If you want them, just let me know. We've just got to get our numbers up because they're way down. And the last time we took this, there was actually more economic activity outside the arts district than inside. But right now, it looks like almost all the city's activity is in the arts district. And we know that's not really reflective of our community. So please, please get those out, especially during the holiday season. I know we've all got shows, so especially get them out during the holiday season. Thanks.
And those templates are on the DACAC website, both for that card he talked about that you can, copy and hand out, and also the paper version that people, we've had a lot of our patrons who prefer to do the paper version. We just have a volunteer walk around and hand out the cards, and they walk around with a clipboard that has the paper version with pens, and it takes 2 minutes to do the survey. So we have been getting people to do that. It's pretty easy once you just kind of put it into your your checklist of all the things you need to do for your events.
And just remember, there's 4 versions. It's a little complicated, but one's arts district, but then there's one if you're a BIPOC organization in the arts district. And then there's one outside the arts district for anything outside the district. And then there's one for BIPOC outside the arts district.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who wants, I'll send you all 4. Just let me know. And like I said, they're easy to run through a photo, through a copier, and you could do 2-sided, and you can literally cut them. We designed them that way, and they're Spanish on one side, English on the other.
Yeah. Anyone who has questions, just give me a call or an email, and I'll help you get that coordinated. Any other comments or questions or things that we need to know about before we sign off? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and look for our next newsletter coming out next week. Take care.
Thank you, Joanna.